your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from any and all corners of the nerd universe. We find out more about them and take your questions. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and our guest this week is crime fiction writer Joh Stamp. John, welcome to the program. How are you today?
Outstanding. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, if you have any questions for Joh Stamp as we go throughout the course of this episode of And I Quote, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producers are going to be keeping an eye on that as we go throughout the course of the show. But in the meantime, to kick things off here, John, what would you say were some of your favorite books or writers growing up?
Growing up, the first adult book, I say adult book, I'm not talking like porn or anything, but adult level reading book. Whenever I said that, everybody's like, oh, okay, you're into adult fiction at the age of 8. Cool. No, but I read Jaws by Peter Benchley, was the first like that level of book I read, and it kind of hooked me right there. But then I turned into, I kind of fell into Clancy. So I just wolfed up all of his books and, all the Patriot games, and especially Without Remorse, and but Crichton. So between Clancy, Crichton, and then I moved into Joseph Wambaugh a little later. But those guys were really the ones that I was just like, yeah, this is a life right here. I write these books, writing these stories, just amazing. So that's how I got started.
Oh, that's excellent. Just out of curiosity, though, favorite, I believe it's Tom Clancy or Michael Crichton book to movie adaptation. What are your favorites?
I got to say, for Clancy, it's got to be Patriot Games. I think they just nailed that part right with the IRA and with Jack Ryan really showing that analyst role that he was in, and that he didn't want to be the action guy. And Harrison Ford blows whoever they had, Alec Baldwin and Ben Affleck, out of the water as far as Jack Ryan goes. When it comes to Crichton, this is a weird one. I mean, I love Jurassic Park. I think Jurassic Park is far and above anything else that you could apply. But if we're going to get away from the obvious, I would think it'd have to Rising Sun with Connery and Wesley Snipes was a really good thriller back in the day. But again, that doesn't even come close to Jurassic Park. But no, that was pretty awesome. I remember they did Sphere, and that just that didn't play well. And Andromeda Strain, that was a little too early for me. I think that was a 70s movie. But actually, no, sorry, 13th Warrior. Have you ever read his 13th Warrior? With that was adapted with Antonio Banderas. I retract my statement. 13th Warrior is probably one of my favorite movie adaptations of all time.
Ooh, Antonio Banderas,
Yeah,
aka Zorro.
Yeah.
I grew up watching him as Zorro
some
in The Mask of
Vikings.
Zorro, and a few other things as well. But all right, good picks. Once again, this kind of goes moving a little bit more towards the modern day. Any thoughts on the most recent? I believe it's the Jack Ryan series that Krasinski's playing on Amazon Prime.
I think Krasinski crushed that role with Jack Ryan. It's a departure from the books,
From before.
of course,
Yeah.
but it was so well done. They nailed him because whatever I think what got lost a lot during, especially after Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, they touched on it, but after that he kind of started into Jack Ryan as action hero. But John Krasinski really sold the wounded vet. He was wounded in a helicopter accident, and he still sold that, a lot of it, and he still tried to stick to that analyst role. But fantastic. And the casting of John Clark within that was John Clark's one of my favorite characters ever, and they nailed it. I will say though, that Without Remorse one was an absolute abomination. If you look at the book, I can't be a part. That was rough. That was a hard one for me to get through. I did, but yeah, it wasn't the cast's fault. It was the writer's fault on that one.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess there's no love here for the Chris Pine reboot, Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, but that's okay. No.
No. I actually don't think I've ever seen that one. The Shadow Recruit. I think I must have skipped that one.
Okay.
Because I didn't read Shadow Recruit. I think that was Next Generation. So.
Okay. Well, if you ever feel so inclined, they did a reboot because Hollywood does this a lot with Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit being him as a younger character, and this is like right before he joins the agency as an analyst and all that stuff. He's kind of reluctant to do it, and it also features Kevin Costner, and Kenneth Branagh directed it and starred in the film.
I don't know how I skipped that one because anything Kenneth Branagh does, he had me. I think he did the Hamlet with Mel Gibson back in the '90s. Mm-hmm. And then he even did Thor. He did the first Thor movie, I think, which was a Kenneth Branagh movie.
You can see the Shakespeareisms in the first Thor movie clearly.
Yep.
Which I think Kenneth Branagh did a really good job with. I actually do like the first Thor movie. I know it kind of sometimes it gets overlooked because everyone's so in love with Taika Waititi and what he did with Ragnarok and what he's doing right now with Love and Thunder. That's crushing it at the box office right now. No puns intended, Hemsworth. No puns intended. But yeah, I like the first Thor movie because Kenneth Branagh did a really good job with it. There's Shakespearean elements there. You get this, you get the brotherly, brothers hating each other type story, and plus, what was it? Anthony Hopkins is Odin. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that it was so perfectly cast, and but they did. I mean, it's a it's a spandex movie, but they actually bring that character, that Thor character, is always over the top, alive, but they keep it. They keep Branagh's able to keep that Shakespearean concept that I think it was executed amazing. Yeah.
Excuse me, that's a fair point. Once again, we're talking with crime fiction writer Joh Stamp on this episode of And I Quote. Make sure you're liking and sharing this video with all 200 of your closest friends. They're going to like the way they look after watching or listening to this episode. I guarantee it. If you have any questions for Joh Stamp, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the live chat as we go throughout the course of the show. When did you decide to become a writer, John?
As a kid, I was always scribbling, especially once I got those first couple books out under my belt. So I was always outlining, and I did a couple short stories. But I always wanted to be the novelist. Like I wanted to be, Tom Clancy, would be rocking the flight suit and the Top Gun coat on the back of his book covers. I was like, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. But of course I couldn't get a novel together until I was like 36, but I'd always be scribbling. I'd always have a notebook with me no matter where I went. It wasn't until after grad school I had that room in my day that I didn't know what to do with anymore. I just put myself in a 500 word a day limit and said, let's go. And 6-7 months later, I had the first draft of my first book, Shattered Circle. And I was like, I can't believe I did that. So I just kept going.
Awesome sauce. Nice feather in your cap there. What would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being a writer?
It's an accomplishment. And it's also, it's kind of nobody really talks about it when you become a writer, but the ability to take 50 or 60 rejection letters and laugh at them, that's something that sometimes takes some practice. So the thick skin, the independent streak that comes with being an author, because it's just you and a keyboard. If you don't put the words on paper, nobody's going to care or know except you. So there's only one person holding you accountable during that. And then on top of that, the book signings and hanging out with readers and going to book conferences has been amazing. I love doing it. I could do 2 or 3 a year, and just hanging out and be able to talk books with people where there's nothing else going on, no other variables or interferences, is nice to be able to dedicate that. So I love talking to people, talking books. So there's a lot of them. There's a lot of things you didn't really realize until you get into this game.
No, that's very true. That's very true. Diane Cook is in the building. She says, "Hello, Ryan. Happy Saturday. An awesome interview with Joh Stamp thus far." Thank you, Diane. We do our best here on the show. Yeah. Diane is a good friend of ours here at the show. She's in the wonderful state of North Kakalaki. She's in North Carolina. So good to see you, Diane. Feel free to chime in with questions for John. He's more than happy to answer them as we go throughout the course of the show. But on the flip side of the coin, though, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
It kind of goes along with the same thing. It's an independent streak to get it done, but the discipline involved in, writing, getting it, dedicating yourself to getting up 2 hours early every day and to bang away on the keyboard, for no guaranteed benefit. There's nobody says that when you get done with this 80 to 100,000 words that anybody's going to want to read it. So that's that having to have that discipline is tough. But and then of course I'm sure you've had every author that you've ever had on say this, but nobody tells you that there's a business side to this when you start. So you're like, I'm going to write a novel, and you get done. You're like, hey, I wrote a novel, everybody. And then they're like, well, how do you market? How do you, what's your business plan? How do you get in front of people? Because the publishers are great. The publishers will give you, support, make it look good, make it look professional, but they have hundreds of authors on their rolls. So they can't dedicate, a full-time marketing campaign to you. So learning the business side of things is it's not something you really realize until you get into it. And I'd much rather be just the artist getting it done and have somebody else do that. But it's tough. You got to be out there, and I enjoy the outreach. I enjoy doing all of this stuff, especially when I get to talk to people like you, but it's tough to find time to do that and keep writing, keep the story going. So there's challenges. Yeah, but it's all fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a balancing act. Now, some things I would like to share with you here, and for those of you who may be watching or listening to this episode, I want to ask you about this right here, Shattered Circle, written by you. I'm just curious, what exactly is this, and how did this all come about for Shattered Circle and these characters?
Yeah, Shattered Circle is my first book, and as a cop or former cop, you write what you know. So, but I always liked that getting as close to reality as possible with fiction, and like that Will Smith movie Bright.
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of along those lines. This is written long before Bright ever came around. But so what I wanted to do is I wanted to take a detective, put him on a case, and then just have the world go completely sideways on him and see how it goes. Like, most fantasy novels, you'll have, the protagonist will start out, normal guy, weakling, the story of 1,000 faces, denying the adventure, not wanting to go into it. But in most fantasy stories, there's always somebody that's, your hero suddenly 3/4 of the way through the book has some lineage that makes him a superhero out of nowhere that he didn't know about. And I did not want to do that. I purposely was like, my hero he's not a grand, druid from 2,000 years ago. He's a cop. He's got a badge, a gun, and a pair of handcuffs, and a couple of his crazy friends that are going to try and help him out. But that's what I did. I took a detective who doesn't believe in anything he can't see, smell, or hear, or touch, gave him a triple murder that just happened to be connected, was a human sacrifice of a coven of witches who practice blood magic. So in this role, blood carries power, that person's power. And so when he starts sniffing around, they're like, well, let's throw some magic at him. Let's throw a demon at him. And keeps denying what he's seeing, denies what he's seeing. And then that particular demon decides to try and take his head off. And we have a real problem here. So we just make him figure it out. You don't have any magic, bud. Just go figure it out.
Oh my goodness.
It was fun. Yeah.
That is, I was going to say, that is something else. And the cover here, very enticing. I mean, you see one guy, he's got the typical, cop stance. He's got the badge. He's just trying to do his job. And then you see this bizarro creature lurking in the background, trying to, so it's, you know what I mean? Like what I'm trying to say is that this cover will get someone's attention.
Yeah, and it's a genius, Jeffrey Ray Hayes from Plasma Fire Graphics, the genius behind that. And actually, once I saw what he did with Shattered Circle and the follow on the second Cole novel, Acquisitor, I had him redo all of my covers. I was just like, dude, you're a genius. So that man, if anybody's looking for a cover with some absolute artistic creativity to it, that's the one. That guy's amazing. So at Plasma Fire Graphics for anybody who's in the market.
There you go. And some people are chiming in here. I believe, is this you, Emily? Yeah, I believe it's Emily. She says, "Oh, sounds like an awesome book. Awesome." Well,
I like Emily's handle. Yeah, MC squared. I like it.
Smarty pants, that Emily. Even I'm sorry, she's a friend of the show. I gotta throw her a little bit there, here and there. Just a little bit of funny stuff. And either way, here's another thing I'd like to share with you. And this is another one of yours, Brother's Keeper. Look at that cover. I mean, if that doesn't draw you in, I'm not sure what will. And once again, I take it this is from Jeffrey Hayes of plasmafiregraphics.com. When the look of your book matters to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm just curious, how did this all come about, and what exactly is Brother's Keeper?
So this one, It's funny on the I guess apparently if you look through the catalog, I'll dive off into fantasy land, come back, write a crime thriller, and kind of rotate. But this Brother's Keeper I always kind of had in my head, because it's funny when you partner up with somebody, whether in Charleston, the PD I was at, we were one to a car, so one to a patrol car, but the squad's always really, really tight. You get to be a detective, really, really tight. You're usually working with somebody, and it's funny that you'd see these crew, these guys every now and then, and you would just, you top out maturity wise at about 15. That's just the way it is. So we're working these cases, but they sometimes you bicker like teenagers, but you're closer than blood in some cases too. So I wanted to play on that and kind of, I had an idea of these guys from a story from the Battle of Fallujah of somebody getting separated and the whole team just laying waste to get their comrade back. And so I took these guys, they meet in basic training, hate each other, get punished together, and then when they're supposed to, they make a decision. They're trying to make it through the Marine Corps AIT school, infantry school. I can't remember the equivalent now, but they get in a fight over their cot in the first night and end up filling sandbags all night long. So to survive training, they make a pact that, okay, we're going to ignore each other for the next 8 weeks. As soon as we graduate, we're going right back to where we are. We're just going to settle this. And then the night comes, they've been planning that the whole time. They go outside behind this country western bar, just them, and they see 3 guys messing with a girl, like trying to kidnap this girl, and they decide to beat them up instead. And there's nothing that brings people closer than a good fight. So they just become brothers. They deploy together. They come back, become cops together. And then one takes an undercover role. He can't. It's so secret because of local political influences, corruption, everything, that he destroys his entire career. Doesn't tell his best friend. And when he doesn't show up for a safety check-in, there's only one person that's left even the remote clue. So this guy's got to go figure it out while keeping it on the down low from all the corruption and all the political pressure that comes with what they were working on. So in the end, this guy, Charlie, went undercover, threw his whole life away to dive into a multi-state international human trafficking ring. And then Alex has got to go get him. And it's kind of lays waste to Charleston doing it.
Oh my goodness gracious.
It was fun.
Man. Yeah. For sure. Great. Those sound great. Wonderful stuff. Once again, we're talking with crime fiction writer Joh Stamp on this episode of And I Quote. Make sure you share this video with all 300 of your closest friends. They're going to like that way to look after watching or listening to this episode. I guarantee it. Any questions for Joh Stamp during the portion of the show, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the live chat. We're going to be going through that as we go throughout the course of the show. So any special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you're there as an attendee or there as a vendor selling your books, John?
You know what? It all comes down to like the first time somebody just said, I absolutely love your book. I can't wait to get the next one. The first time somebody's like, that actually is like, yeah, I love what you write. Cause we'll get the Amazon comments and stuff, but when somebody actually comes up to you looking for your next book, that's a whole lot. It builds a lot of confidence, and it's a very cool moment. But when it comes to, conventions, attending them like a Comic-Con or whatever, the first time I took, I think at the time he was probably 3. Yeah, he had to be 3-ish, and didn't tell him what we were doing. We just go to a little Comic-Con on Jekyll Island, and we walk in the door, and BB-8 is just sitting there staring at this 3-year-old, and his jaw just goes slack. He just stops moving for a minute. And then he looks in the next side, there's 4 stormtroopers coming at him from like the 501st or whatever they call those guys.
Sure. Yeah.
And so he's both just met his new best friend and scared to death at the same time. And he just looks at me and he's not sure whether to run or hide, So that seeing it through my kid's eyes was kind of, that's the defining thing of seeing how that works. But it, of course, had to do some negotiations with the 501st. They got to the point where they're hanging out, doing pictures with them. Trips actually, holding their guns and stuff. And but just to see that comprehension dawn on him, it's a new thing. It's a new thing being able to see it through fresh eyes. So it's very cool.
Well, the force is strong with this one.
So, oh yeah. Just ask him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, considering many people saw that movie, or BB-8 was featured in the first one, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, many times back in the year 2015. I saw that movie 6 times in theaters because I loved it so much. So no shame in that. What advice would you have for aspiring writers out there?
Like I said before, it's an independent business. People like to, think of the author as, somebody with a tweed jacket and reinforced sleeves and elbows and, typing away on their computer while, smoking a pipe or something like that. And it's the most blue collar endeavor you can get into. It's you, an outline, and a computer. And it's just you dedicating yourself, being organized. For me, I have to take that same block out of the day every day and make sure that that's where I'm dedicated. Because if I just try to catch up someplace, it's never going to happen. And I've seen it most with people who will ask me, I've been trying, I just can't get to it. And it's a matter of looking at it like another job. You have this time when you work, no matter what happens, you sit yourself down during your work time, you work, and then you go. So having that organization and the dedicated space to stick to it is the most important thing, because everybody's got great ideas. It's just, they'll say, after lunch, I'll get some time to do this. Or after the kids go to bed, I'll get some time to do this. And there's always something else that comes up. So you got to dedicate yourself, be organized, and just stick to it, I think.
Yeah. I can totally dig that. Totally dig that. No question about it. Who would you say are some of your favorite writers of today? Any names stand out to you?
You know what? I've read a couple of Brian Shea's Boston crime novels. Have been really good. Greg Beck he's got a couple series out there, but I'm reading one that's like a kind of I can't remember. It's kind of like a stuck under the earth kind of Alien versus Predator thing. That's been really good. Cap Daniels writes a spy thriller that's based out of actually coastal Georgia. That's had a pretty fun take on the spy thriller. I've been enjoying those, but it's kind of one of those things. I'll go to Amazon and just start surfing and go to my go-to titles like my Matt Riley or David Goldman, and then just go, who else we got? And just, I'll feed off of those guys when Matt Riley doesn't have something going on, or Goldman, his event series I thought was really good. And, but I think that's done now. So I would say George Martin, but that man kept me waiting so long for several books that I've kind of cut him off. So
no, there you go. I mean, the only thing I know about his series is that everyone dies in the end, mostly.
I love it.
There's a lot of red weddings in those books, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a Game of Thrones reference. But I'm just throwing that out there if anyone has no idea what Listen, the only bits and pieces I've seen of Game of Thrones is the red wedding. And I've seen trailers for them here and there. Don't get me wrong, but I've not physically have sat down and watched all, what was it, 9 seasons of Game of Thrones or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Plus, I heard I heard from fans that the ending was terrible. I mean, granted, I'm just going off of what they said. I can't say if I agree with them or not.
Yeah, it was one of those things where they just tried to tie it up. It was like, there's so much more to do. Yeah, they just tied it up. I mean, I
don't know. They're doing I think they're doing a prequel series called House of the Dragon. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I read that one that I think it's based off of. And I don't like those people enough. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to root for them enough to be dedicated to the show. I just did not like what are they, the Targaryens or whatever? So something like that. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
I'm not too sure. By the way, Keisha Acuff is in the building. She says, hello, beautiful people. Keisha of Acuff Creations. Look her up. Wonderful person. Good to see you, Keisha. Thank you for being here. Bueller. George Bueller's in the building. He says, howdy, campers. How you doing, George? Good to see you. Always good to see him. He's a good guy. He's the host of Fanatic Forum on the Back of the Cereal Box Network on Friday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And he and I just had a conversation last night. I was his guest.
Nice.
So we were talking about some of our favorite obscure movies. So if you want to go back and watch that, it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. We definitely, he threw out some names that I never heard of. And I think I only threw out maybe 1 or 2 that he's not familiar with. So he beat me to the punch on that one. Thanks, George.
Yeah.
But it's not a competition, George. It's not a competition.
There's enough room for everybody.
I'm just saying, there's enough. You're right. See, John is right. There is enough room for everybody. That is so true in this world, the crazy mixed world that we live in. I'll tell you what, this episode of And I Quote, and every episode of And I Quote, I should say, is indeed powered by Poddex. Now, Poddex are the hottest new tool for podcasters looking to have more meaningful conversations or gamify their podcast. So you simply shuffle them up, you ask a question, you let the content roll. It's that simple. Get yours today at poddex.com and use promo code Ryan10, all one word, RYAN10. That's Ryan10 for 10% off your order. You're not going to miss that. Make sure you visit them at poddex.com. John, what is the main quality you think makes a great parent?
Oh, that is tough. Because I don't see myself as an expert in anything parenting wise. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The one thing that I will say that I subscribe to, like, I changed my entire life when my kid showed up. I will say that when the kid shows up, you no longer matter. And if people can understand that they are not priority for the next 20 years or so, I think that once you get yourself out of the way and start making sure that everything, those two kids or however many kids you got, they always come first. They're the first priority. I think that that clears the road of a lot of problems that I see people have every now and then. But just doing your best and trying to make them a productive member of society. Just I tell them they need to be a benefit. Whatever you do in your life, just be a positive benefit to this, like you say, this crazy mixed up world we live in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And thank you so much for answering that. Do appreciate it. Who is the best female role model in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it would probably, this might be stereotypical, but it's probably mom. It would have to be, right? Mm-hmm. Mom or the wife. But my mom, single mom, raised 2 kids, always worked, always kept things light, always had a smile on her face. So you don't recognize the challenges that people go through until you get to that stage. So it wasn't until after I had kids, I was like, man, that was horrible. All the stuff you put up with. But it'd probably be her. And then I'd for the boys, I'd say their mom is probably the best. She's a nurse. Hardcore. She's just very disciplined, very straightforward, but she's one of those people that lights up every room she walks into. So if I can impart that on my boys, I think that will be a huge benefit someday. So yeah.
There you go. Boom goes the dynamite. And by the way, for those of you maybe listening or watching this episode of And I Quote, let us know your thoughts. What do you think is the most important quality to have in a parent, or who is your favorite female role model right now? Let us know in the comments. We'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on these questions as we go throughout the course of the show. So with that being said, would you travel to space if possible, John, even though in space no one can hear you scream?
Oh, absolutely. I have a standing offer to, if there are UFOs up there, I am open to an abduction as long as they let me fly the ship let me take a spin. I'm down for whatever. But no, I would hop on Elon Musk's Starship in a heartbeat just to say I went.
Do you think he would do what am I trying to say here? A intro with his narration of space, the final frontier. Drop a little Star Trek-isms in there?
I think maybe since Bezos beat him to Shatner, I think if he could grab Picard for that first trip, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Well, that's fair. That's a fair point. It's a fair point, John. You never know.
Yep.
And with today's technology, anything is almost pretty much anything is possible at this point. You know what I mean?
He's willing to spend the money to prove it too.
All that money.
All that money.
Jerry Maguire, show me the money. Anyhow.
Yeah, good on him.
I know, that's a story for another day entirely. What was the best present you ever received, John? The best present you ever received. What do you think?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
In the words of Michael Crichton, we spared no expense.
Yeah, that's a very difficult one because it's one of those things that probably, man, it's going back a while. I mean, my kid was supposed to be born on my birthday. That would have been cool, but I think, but that's a little hardy. So let's go with I gotta, if I'm thinking about it, I gotta go all the way back to so like when I was a kid, lacrosse player, I needed a new stick. Because I was obsessed with the game of lacrosse right up until college. So I spent hours and hours and hours a day just doing that crazy sport. So I'd have to go with that if I wasn't going to say, my kid.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I can tell you this for certain. My brothers would be very impressed that you dropped the word lacrosse on it, because my brothers played lacrosse when I have two older brothers, so they played lacrosse when they were younger, is what I'm trying to get at here. Do you still watch lacrosse here and there on television, like college lacrosse or something like that?
Yeah, even in Georgia, I'll still get lacrosse, and I grew up playing field, and but then I grew up in upstate New York, so
Sure.
Field in the spring, but then the rest of it was all on a hockey rink, so it was a lot of box lacrosse, and so I'll still be able to watch box lacrosse, and I got the boys love it. The only thing I hate about living in South Georgia is there is no lacrosse, because I think that is the paramount of physical activity. There is no other sport where you get to beat somebody with a stick and get rewarded for it. So I just said, I've told my wife that I would move the family so the boys could play lacrosse, but she's having none of that. So
The missus is having none of it. And there's
She
an old
likes
saying that goes along with happy wife, happy life. That's what I've heard.
Yep.
I may be wrong.
She never told me no. And I moved her around like 6-7 times in 10 years after we got married. So, so when it came time to settle down, she got first pick, and she gets to run the show. So yeah, she's put up with a lot of my nonsense for a lot of years. So
There you go. Now, if you were what is known as a boss of many, would you want them to fear you or love you?
I wouldn't want either one. I in my day job I do supervise, but Google likes to make a big play of having a flat hierarchy, and I've always just seen. I don't know how true that is. I don't really pay attention that much to that stuff, but I always see everything as a team. You come up with a good idea and say, let's go do this, and the team comes with you. And when you have people who fear you, they won't speak up when they have a better idea than you. And when you have people that love you, they might not speak up because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So, but if you know that everybody's got the same say, I mean, ultimately I'm the one that makes the decision, but you get people who flat out disagree with you and will tell you if they feel like we're in a team atmosphere. And I would respect that more than anything. So I don't want either one. I just want a good working team.
There you go. Very important. And teamwork does make the dream work. We've been taught that for many, many years. And I think it still holds up to this day, at least in my opinion. I can't speak for everybody, but that's
what they say.
That's my 2 cents in the matter. But we want to take this opportunity to say thank you to crime fiction writer Joh Stamp for being our guest on this episode of And I Quote. John, thank you so much for being here. Where can the person watching or listening to this follow you on social media and everything you have coming up?
I appreciate it, man. This went quick, but I try to keep everything pretty controlled. So at Joh Stamp Writer, Twitter, IG, Facebook is all the same handle. And then I've got the podcast That's Criminal with Joh Stamp. You can find that Apple, Spotify, pretty much anywhere. Also on IG, That's Criminal is on. I got a page for that too. I got a TikTok thing, but I'd feel like an idiot every time I post something on that thing. So I'm just figuring it out as I go. But I got the website too. But I usually, if you want to see what's going on, it's going to be all on the socials, honestly. So, and then my Amazon page, that'll work.
Oh, well, there you go. And all the links to where you can follow Joh Stamp are located within the description of this video. And it's also scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now, his website. So make sure you check it out. Check out his books. He's got a lot of great things coming your way very soon. And he's got some great books out right now that you can get your hands on. So treat yourself.
I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for being here, John. Once again, my name is Ryan of Nerd Culture. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. All kinds of stuff coming your way very soon. I want to take this opportunity to say thank you to our good friends over there at theradbear.com. You're looking for some killer-looking nerd swag from your favorite properties, whether it be from the 1980s with The Never-Ending Story, the 1990s with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or anything today. Check them out at theradbear.com. Make sure you use that promo code RYAN10. That's RYAN10, all one word, RYAN10, for 10% off your order. You're not going to miss out on the best nerd brand for swagga at theradbear.com. Also, I want to let you in on something. We are doing a very special watch along coming up very soon. A lot of special things coming your way very soon. The next watch along, the next film that's celebrating its anniversary is coming up, and that is The Living Daylights. So, going back to 1987's The Living Daylights, starring Timothy Dalton in his first time being Agent 007, James Bond. So that's going to be on Sunday, July the 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this channel that you are watching right now. So make sure you're following us on all socials at It's Nerd Culture. Links can be found in the description of this video. So we're going to take it back, way back to 1987 AD, when The Living Daylights came out and bursted into theaters and made a huge impact for the 007 franchise. Trust me on that. Also, coming up on future episodes of And I Quote, our next guest is going to be on July the 30th, and is Andrea Starnes, cosplayer extraordinaire and co-host of Cosplay Cafe over there at the Back of the Cereal Box Podcast Network. She's going to be our guest on Saturday, July 30th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be talking about her life and her enjoyment of being a cosplayer, going to Comic-Cons, dressing up as her favorite characters, as well as some other nerdy stuff, because nerds are awesome, and nerds run this place, so there's nothing wrong with that. Also, I want to let you in on something. Coming up in the month of January, we got the Multiverse fundraiser. The Ritter Rally is coming up. We got so many special guests that are going to be a part of that virtual convention weekend. So make sure you visit the website, themultiversefundraiser.com. Follow them on all forms of social media. It's the Ritter Rally in memory of John Ritter, and it's going to be on January the 20th through the 22nd of 2023. So make sure you follow us on all forms of social media to find out who our special guests. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have special panels, special topics. You're going to love it, and it's for a good cause, and that is something very important. So make sure you check that out as well. Goodness gracious, so much to do. It's so little time. So with that being said, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. In the meantime, stay healthy, stay strong, stay safe, and remember, life is better when reading. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Join author Gary Zeiger for an animatic short film based on his breakaway Stingray novel series. Watch this animatic short based on the novel Stingray, You Can't Hide Forever at stingrayseries.com. In Stingray, You Can't Hide Forever, Captain Epsilon is putting the band back together to rescue his protege's little sister from the evil conglomerate, while keeping his state-of-the-art warship Stingray out of their hands. Watch as the adventure unfolds in the groundbreaking animatic short at stingrayseries.com. Then, join the crew of Stingray with the next novel in the series, Stingray Prophecy, where Captain Epsilon and Dr. Zubre are pivotal players in an ancient prophecy. Can they reunite the people of two worlds before they destroy each other? To learn more, visit stingrayseries.com.
In the summer of 1953, private investigator Will Lucky Marks was working as the in-house private eye for Arcane Pacific Pictures. Trapped inside the studio with the killer, Lucky must find the killer before time runs out. Lot 28. Own it today. Available iTunes and Amazon.com.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now, it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.